Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Sulphurblade. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my content, and welcome back to another help video for Mist Legacy. I already tried to do this video once, and it turned into a rambling mess, so I decided to scrap that video and just do it all over again. Alright, so the purpose of this video is just basic domain management. You're new to the game, the domain has you confused. Lots of features in the domain are not readily apparent to a gamer who's played other games and other game systems. You can get lost pretty easily dealing with the domain. So the first place we're going to start with is how to clear your domain, how to make it so that you have room to actually place buildings. Well, if you look at the domain itself, you will notice that you can move the domain map around. I didn't even realize this at first. It blew my mind when I actually attempted to click and drag on this map and found that I could actually move it around. I was like, what? I just thought that this was a static image and that what I saw was all that I had. No, you can click and drag it around. This was a concept that just took me by surprise. So, map can be moved around. Why do you move the map around? So you click on these various forests in order to clear them, to get rid of them. I unfortunately do not have the skill to clear said forest at level 25. I've cleared everything that I can at this point. Actually, there's a 23 here, there's a 22 here, but even the 22 is beyond me right now at this point. But yeah, all of these different things have different skill checks. And if you have the corresponding skill to do so, you can put the tool itself into your coffer. The tool needs to be in your coffer. So if you're trying to clear wood, you need to have a logging axe in your coffer. And that logging axe needs to be high enough level, and your skill needs to be high enough level. If your skill and the logging axe are high enough level, and there's enough durability left on the item, and it's inside of the coffer itself, you can then click on a forest, and it will clear it. And when you clear the forest, you'll get the wood that's actually on the forest. You don't know what kind of wood is there, or at least I don't think you do. I don't see where you would be able to tell that. It doesn't seem to be a feature that tells you ahead of time what you're going to get. But you get a various amount of wood of different types. It seems to be kind of sensible to the level of forest you're chopping down. So, you know, at level 25, I would expect I'd probably be getting stuff like melees or you know, stuff that you're going to be chopping inside of the world at that skill level. But I digress. So that's the way that works. And same thing with mining. You put in the mining pick with the appropriate level, appropriate skill, and you can clear stone off of the map to make room. And again, you then get some stone back of the appropriate level type that would make sense to that mining level. Alright, so we've gone over how to clear your domain. You now know how to clear the domain. Once the domain is cleared, you'll discover these little circles that you can build on. And there's various buildings that you can build on. Well, before we go on to the building of the buildings, let's go on the Mist House. This is another one that completely blew my mind. Okay. So the Mist House itself gives you a capacity of 40, which means your 218 slots down here, 40 points of that is because the Mist House exists. So you start the game with 40 points from the Mist House. The Mist Mansion gives you a capacity of 20. So you start the game with 40 points from the Mist House and 20 points of capacity from the Mist Mansion. So that's 60 points of inventory you have available here. Since I'm talking about inventory, I guess we'll stay on inventory. How does inventory work? Shelter was a building that confused me. The shelter building itself gives me 13 slots for my inventory. However, what's inside of the shelter building, the loading ladder and the cart, even though they say capacity on them, they don't give you extra inventory. I really think this should be relabeled by the developer because it causes confusion. Great confusion. I had attempted to put extra loading ladders and extra carts into here purely for the purpose of expanding my inventory, but it didn't do jack diddly squat because it doesn't do jack diddly squat. The only thing that adds to your inventory is the building itself. Anything inside of the building doesn't do anything to capacity, even though the things inside of the buildings have a capacity skill label on them. Developers, you need to change that. It confuses people. Now that you know this, you should not be as confused as I was when I went about making extra carts and extra ladders purely for the purpose of having more inventory space. Don't do it. It's a waste of time. It's not going to add to your inventory space. You can thank me now. I've solved that concept for you. The Mist House. I got sidetracked by the 40 capacity on the Mist House. The Mist House starts with these two circles over here. You don't know what those circles are for. I didn't know what those circles were for. I assumed that the Mist House was the place where the mist was fought. That's what the lore said. The Mist House, this domain, is where you fight back the mist. So I assumed that those two circles were for people that were going to help you fight back the mist. And I figured when you got those people to fight back the mist that, I don't know, the map here would expand or something. That was just my original assumption of what this building did. Because again, I had no idea what these circles did. And I played this game for, I don't know, 2 days before I finally clicked on one of these circles. And when I clicked on one of these circles, to my surprise, this popped up. And then it dawned on me. Oh. The Mist House doesn't do anything like what I thought it did. The Mist House, those two circles, allow you to AFK collect resources that you've uncovered on the map. I felt foolish. Very foolish that all this time had gone by and I hadn't been AFK collecting resources. I could have been. And the best part about these mist circles is you can collect resources you don't actually have the skill to collect. I don't have lumberjacking 24, but I can collect lumberjacking 24 Elvinos. I don't have botany 30, but I can collect these resources because I've discovered them on the map. Pretty cool. That's what the Mist House does. Use it if you haven't been using it. Same thing with the 2 circles here for Ovi and Finn. Use them. Click on them, assign them. This is Finn's circle. These are the you can click on these things to figure out what Finn can do for you. And same thing with Ovi. You can click on these things, and Ovi can, basically, if you send him here, he can collect either hare, buffalo, boar, deer every 3 hours. If you send him over here, he can collect bear, larsen, auroch, varan, or marbach, and there's the percentage that he's going to come back with those every 4.5 hours. I currently have him, what do I currently have him do? I think he's doing... You know what? What he's doing isn't showing on the map because he's doing it. That's another thing. When you have something assigned, it takes it off of this map. Just makes it vanish. You have to actually change it in order to see it. But if I change it, then I'll lose all the progress and time that I've invested into doing this. So this is what I'm collecting right now with Ovi. So Ovi collects that, Finn's collects that, Misthouse collects that, Misthouse collects that. I guess that can lead us into buildings that collect these. You may or may not have discovered the rustic camp, rustic mine, and the rustic garden, but they will collect things AFK like your Misthouse will. The rustic camp will, in one slot, will do lumber, and in the other slot will do hunting, correlating to the level of the Misthouse. Since this Misthouse is only level 13, it can only do wood up to the difficulty of 13, and it can only do animals up to the difficulty of 13. So I'm collecting the Chandran and bear right now with the rustic camp. The mine is level 14. I'm collecting this Asiel ore and this Argaloo boulder. One thing to note, when you're collecting these things, there are various different nodes, and they have numbers on them. The number correlates to how much is going to be collected. So I'm currently collecting a node that will give me 12 of whatever it's collecting. Argillu, I think is what it is. So when you select a node, be sure you're selecting the node with the biggest number so you're collecting the most of it with your given time. Don't select a smaller node, select the biggest node available for that resource type. Now you know. If you didn't know, you know that now. And the same thing goes with the rustic garden, which will get you plants and or herbs. Well, plants on this side, herbs on this side. This is what it looks like. These are the herbs that are available to collect. And again, it's based on the level of the building. And these are the plants that are available to collect. And again, it's based on the level of the building. Did I go through the mine? Yeah, I think I showed you guys this, right? I'm just click on it fast. You can pause it if you want to see more. But again, it's only going to show you what the building level is up to and what I have actually explored. If you haven't explored it, you're not going to be able to click on it. Now, where can you get the recipes for these rustic buildings? If you go to the portal, we'll jump through Cortambi here. And the rustic garden is purchased right here at this vendor, Mauve Gris. Obviously I've bought it already, so it's not going to be here, but this is where you would get it. That's the garden. The camp is gotten over here at Camp Tormol. So you'd go here, you'd click on her, you'd open up her wares, and obviously I've already purchased it, so you're not going to see it here, but this is where you would get the camp. And lastly, you can see my cursor. Up here is Forsec Mine. That's where the mine is purchased, is at Forsec Mine. I'm not going to actually travel up there, but yeah, you've seen it. That's where the mine blueprint is available for sale. So garden here, the camp over at Tormville, and the mine up at Forsec Mine. And that covers the rustic buildings for the most part. There is one more cool thing that the rustic buildings do, and it's that the rustic buildings also have 10 capacity on them. So each one of these rustic buildings is expanding my inventory another 10 capacity slots. Huge. Helps out a lot in expanding your coffers so you have more room to hold stuff. So that's another very useful thing that the rustic buildings do. The pasture. I don't think I've talked about this yet, but the pasture has a pasture area and a stall area. As you can see, I have a level 20 riding horse here because I have a drinking trough and a straw mattress that are the equivalent of 21 points. And that's what's needed for the travel horse. The travel horse needs at least level 20. So as you can see, I've got 21 of 20. So evidently this stall maxes out at 20. You can't go beyond 20 on this stall. But the travel horse is 20 points, so it's good enough. 8 of 10, so you can only put up to a level 10 drinking trough here. So you can put in animals of level 10 convenience or less in these two slots. In this example, I have a transport donkey and a transport mule. This convenience stat doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to me. Don't understand it. I'm just going to be frank with you. This convenience stat doesn't make any sense. I have a horse here that needs 20 convenience. The stall itself has 20 convenience of it. But one would think the building, the entirety of the building having only 10 convenience would mean that this horse would not be able to go in here. But that's not the case. You can put a level 20 convenience horse into a stall as long as the stall has, 20 points of convenience items here. Don't know what this stat is about. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, so moving on from the pasture, that's kind of how the pasture works. We'll go to the shelter. Did I talk about the shelter yet? The building itself has a capacity stat. That capacity stat actually goes to the coffers. However, these items inside of the shelter also have a capacity stat, but they do not affect your inventory. I sadly made the mistake of building these things to expand my inventory because I figured capacity stat, more better, more inventory space. More wrong. Doesn't work that way. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. Alright, moving on from the shelter, you have the barracks. Barracks is expansion to your mist mansion, basically. It allows you more room to put companions if you fill up your mist mansion. So, if If you get more companions and you don't have room for them, you can put them in a barracks. There you go. That's what the barracks is for. And it also has a 5 capacity slot, which means it's giving you 5 extra slots to your coffers. Outdoor workshop. Your intermediary workshop. This is the workshop that takes over for your startup workshop. As you can see, I no longer use my startup workshop. Sadly, you cannot demolish this building. Developers, let us demolish the damn building. It's useless. Let us have that space. So you're going to move on from this building. It's just going to sit there. It's just going to be a decoration. It will have no function. You'll end up probably removing your tools from it and throwing them into the next workshop that's better. Why is it better? Because you have a higher skill limit. In this workshop, I can do up to level 23 crafts, where in this workshop, I could do only up to level 10 crafts. So, up to 23, if you have, tools that are, say, level 24, well, the level 24 tool isn't going to be any good. It's only going to give you level 23, because the workshop is only capable of level 23. If you want to go beyond that, you either have to upgrade it and squeeze every last little bit of this out of it, or you build the next building, which is the machine workshop. In the machine workshop, you have a machine and your tools. These machines are recipes, and they're expensive recipes. But you can buy these expensive recipes at the library in the main town. So you know where the library guy is. There's another lady in the library next to him that actually sells the recipes, as well as some basic versions that you don't have to build if you don't want to. So you can physically buy a really bad saw bench, or a really bad what would this be, bellows, or a really bad tanning rack, so on and so forth. But this allows you to move on from the outdoor workshop on things that require more skill yet than what this workshop is capable of doing. So eventually, when you move everything into the machine workshop, you can actually dismantle this building and get the space back. But for some reason, you can't dismantle the startup workshop. So we've gone over barracks, we've gone over the workshops, we went over the mist mansion, we went over the startup workshop, the shelter, the pasture, the rustic camps. I think we've hit the nail on the head of most everything dealing with early game domain management. And this is probably where you need this video the most, is in early game you have no idea. But after you do this stuff, you start to get an idea of how the game works. And once you have the idea, the rest of the stuff kind of typically falls into place without too much problem. But the concepts that I just went over today might not have been readily apparent to you, because this game has a lot of its own very unique concepts that haven't been done in any other MMORPG. And so where a lot of different games have things that just kind of make sense because you've done them in so many other games prior to that you don't need an explanation, this game, a lot of the things are brand new, and there's not a whole lot of rhyme nor reason to why it would function in that way. And so hopefully this video will help clear up some of the confusion as to how this domain building and domain functions work, what they do. For instance, capacity only works in the building themselves. Any capacity inside of the buildings doesn't actually expand your inventory. The mist building that you might have been ignoring at the beginning of the game because you didn't know how it works, you now know you should be using it. Yeah, so on and so forth. I might have covered something that you were confused on, and hopefully you're no longer confused. Anyway, I'm James Johnson, aka Software. This is my content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If so, please smash that like button, consider subscribing, and until the next time, I'll Peace.